like if you get a text, it like covers half the screen. I can't see much yet.
Hello, and welcome to this evening's Tiger webinar. I'm Lydia Palmer from RIT's Division of Development and Alumni Relations, and I'm your moderator for this event. We're happy to have you join us today, and we hope that you and our entire Tiger family are well. As we all continue to adapt to this environment, we want you to know that RIT's Office of Alumni Relations is available to help all alumni with a variety of needs, including new virtual content, learning opportunities, and networking and career assistance through our current work and life realities. If you are not already connected to the RIT Alumni Association social media channels, including Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, we encourage you to follow these accounts. You will find up-to-date communications and opportunities to connect with other Tiger alumni in your region and your industry through Alumni Association social media. Those links are found in the chat box, and the chat box can be opened by clicking on the chat tab at the right of your webinar window. Many in our RIT family have asked how they can help our students in the university as we respond to the pandemic and prepare for our upcoming fall semester. We are incredibly grateful for those offers. There are two ways you can help. First, our new graduates and current students are seeking positions for full-time careers and co-ops, respectively. Many of these positions have been delayed or canceled entirely. If your company is hiring or would consider adding a co-op post, please contact Chris Steeler in RIT's Career Services Office and allow her to post that position in our systems. In addition, as RIT prepares for the return of students in just a few weeks, there is now an unprecedented need for financial aid scholarships for continuing and incoming Tiger students. In honor of our special guest tonight, we would like to highlight the Hospitality and Service Management General Scholarship as a giving option for all of you. If you are able, please make a gift at the link in the chat box, and we thank you very much. Now, just a few housekeeping points. We want to ensure that everyone is familiar with the presentation tools. If you are joining from a remote location and are signed into your company's VPN, we encourage you to close that channel during the webinar to increase the quality of the transmission. The webinar platform is secure without VPN. All attendees have joined in mute mode. However, your questions can be entered in the chat box at any time throughout the discussion. We'll make every effort to address all your comments and questions throughout the webinar. You're joining the event using broadcast audio. If you wish to dial in by phone, dial-in information is in the chat box, and live captioning is also being provided, and you can find the link to access that in the chat box as well. This webinar will be recorded and made available, complete with captions, in approximately 1 week following today's event. All participants will receive an email with the link to the recording. If you have any technical questions, please feel free to type those into the chat box as well, and we will do our best to get you the appropriate answers. And now on to our webinar. We are pleased to welcome alumna Gale Gand, nationally acclaimed pastry chef, cooking teacher, cookbook author, restaurateur, and television personality. Gale has received 2 James Beard Awards and was inducted into the American Academy of Chefs and the Chicago Chefs Hall of Fame. She co-founded and partnered in the renowned Chicago restaurant True, which received 2 stars from the Michelin Guide. For 8 years, Gale was the host of Sweet Dreams, Food Network's first program devoted to desserts. Gale continues to appear regularly on television and has appeared on Top Chef, Iron Chef, Oprah, Martha Stewart, The Rachel Ray Show, and many others. Gale's first national television appearance was with Julia Child in the 1995 PBS series Baking with Julia. Gale is the author of 8 cookbooks, including her latest, Gale Gand's Lunch. Gale teaches cooking and baking at cooking schools across the country as well as virtually. She can often be seen cooking at food and wine festivals, on cruises, and at charity events around the world. She is a partner with Think Jerky Company, and her artisan soda pop, Gale's Root Beer, has been sold nationally for over 20 years. Gale began her career as a musician, then became a silversmith, receiving a BFA in metalsmithing from RIT. I'm sure there's an interesting story there. She later attended the La Lorraine Cooking School in Paris. A wife and a mother of 3 in her spare time. Gale, you have spare time.
No.
Okay, Gale paints, takes care of her chickens, and plays the ukulele. Fun fact, she once made a peach cobbler for Aretha Franklin. Gale, we thank you for joining us tonight, and our audience is all yours.
Thank you so much for letting me connect with my fellow Tigers. So, guys, thanks for coming to the kitchen with the RIT apron on. If you need one of these, I bet you can go to the website and get one. But thank you so much for joining me tonight and helping me help raise some money for the school. Before we get started cooking, I just wanted to show you just a couple of my books. I've got Gale Gand's Brunch here and Gale Gand's Lunch that was mentioned. In case anybody needs a book, you can go to my website, galegand.com, and buy a book, and I'll autograph it and personalize it to you. I also got the James Awards.
Gale,
So you guys
I'm sorry, yeah. I'm going to interrupt you just 1 second. I apologize. We've lost your video, and I wonder if you can refresh your screen.
Let me see. I might have to call my daughter in to do that.
So up at the top, there should be like the little arrow that's shaped in a circle.
Lydia,
up at the top. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Not be affecting everyone. Your stream, if you can't see her video, once it's back up, I can hear.
Now, did we just lose her entirely?
She just removed herself from the stage.
Okay. I'm sorry, folks. Hang on just 1 second. Let us work through this issue. Stephen, did you say she removed herself entirely?
Yeah, I just sent her an invitation back on.
Okay.
Okay.
And here she comes.
Do you have video now?
We got you.
And do you have audio?
If for any reason that her stream drops out again, if you reload your browser window, it'll bring it back up. And that doesn't necessarily need to be hers. So Lydia, if it disappears for you and you reload it, it might show up again. I reloaded mine and it showed up again before she removed herself. So anyone watching, if they have a problem where it drops out, try reloading your browser first.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that, Gale. Let's start over.
Okay.
We're good.
When did you lose me? Like right from the get-go?
Just shortly after you started talking, so.
Okay, so welcome everybody back to my kitchen. Thanks for coming to class with me tonight. And I'm so happy to be here helping out RIT as an alumni. I think you heard I was a metalsmithing major, a School for the American Craftsman there. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts from RIT. So you guys, you're my alma mater. Yeah, but I ended up in the kitchen somehow. But I'm very happy here. And I have a great sense of design on the plate because of my education from RIT. So I just wanted to cook with you guys a little bit tonight since we can't be together in person. I did want to show you a couple of my books in case anybody needs one. This is my latest one called Gale Gand's Lunch. And then I've also got Gale Gand's Brunch. If someone needs one of those, you can go to my website and order them. I can send you an autographed copy. I can personalize it if need be. And I'm not sure if anybody's out there that I went to school with, but maybe give a shout out if anybody is there. Class of 81 is when I graduated. So what I wanted to make with you tonight, I think these guys went out ahead of time. So is anybody actually cooking along with me? Because sometimes people do that. Is that because I kind of do the pace a little different if someone's cooking along with me. And you can just put in the chat like, yes, I am, or no, I'm not. Anybody? All right, well, we'll just
I think you do have a couple that are cooking along, so that's great. And also, just so that everyone who's online does know, we sent out the ingredients before the event, but we will also include those ingredients in the recording that we send out. And the ingredients are pasted in the chat box if someone's still trying to clarify what they need. So sounds like we're good to go.
So might have some people cooking along out there. So get your oven preheated to 325. That's what we're going to be baking at. I'm going to do 2 recipes tonight. One is an Italian almond and pine nut cookie. So it's a cookie using almond flour. It's gluten-free just by nature, not because I made it gluten-free, but if you got gluten-free buddies, this is what we do for them. But it's a delicious, moist almond cookie that you can dip in either almonds or dip in pine nuts, and goes great with something else, like accompanying chocolate mousse or some ice cream, or what we're going to make tonight. The other recipe is a lemon mousse, an easy, light, summery lemon mousse with a little bit of strawberry mash on top. So those are the 2 recipes that I want to make. Let's get started with the cookie first. We'll get those in the oven, and then we'll make the lemon mousse while those are baking, okay? Any questions? If you have any questions during it, you can just put them in your chat, type them in, and they'll get asked to me during class, so you don't have to wait to the end. And like it was mentioned, we'll be sending the recipe out again to you so that you got it, in perpetuity to make forever. So first thing, let's kind of go through the ingredients for the almond cookie, the Italian almond and pine nut cookie. We're going to use 3 cups of almond flour, which I've got here. And nowadays, you can buy almond flour right in the store, like Bob's Red Mill is a good brand. Costco has a really big bag of it that I usually get. So almond flour is basically ground up almonds. You can make them yourself. You just have to be careful that you don't grind for too long, because they will build up some friction and heat and turn into almond butter. So I always like to buy my almond flour instead. This is what it looks like. It's kind of a straw-colored, fine, almost looks like sawdust, really. So that's 3 cups of almond flour. I'm going to add to that. And then in my mixer, we're going to put 3 egg whites with a little bit of salt to their soft peaks. We're going to fold those ingredients together. We're going to add 3 tablespoons of apricot jam to that to kind of give a little more moisture to the cookie. Few drops of almond extract for flavor. And then we'll shape that dough into little round balls, form them into, kind of swoosh them so that they turn into opals. We'll dip them in a little more egg white and dip them in the nuts. So they'll be coated with nuts on the very outside, okay? So let's get started. First thing you want to do is just dump your sugar into the almond. And you can see my sugar sticking to my bowl. It's a little humid here in Chicago. I'm on the north side of Chicago. I'm about 30 miles north of Chicago. And we've got about an 80-degree day today with apparently some humidity. So my sugar's sticking to the bowl. But just kind of slowly stir those 2 together gently. You don't want to have any of the almonds jump out of the bowl, but we just want to get them combined.
So Gail,
point.
just
Okay.
just one quick question. We do have somebody who says that their family has nut allergies, so they're wondering if there's. This is not the cookie.
This is not the cookie. I'm going to send you the shortbread recipe. That was the other one we thought of doing, was the lavender shortbread.
So not using a plain flour or anything with this would work. It's definitely the almond flour.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. This is really like, kind of almond flour centric. So, but I'll send you another recipe, I promise. All right, now we need to separate the eggs. We're going to need 3 egg whites we're going to whip up, and then a 4th egg white for dipping. So let's see if we can get those done. Has anybody separated eggs before? So there's sort of 2 ways to do it. You can separate them cold, which is a little safer. The membrane around the yolk stays nice and thick when you do it cold. Or you can let them sit out at room temperature, in which case the white gets a little thinner and flows off more easily like water, so you get more egg white out of the egg. But the yolk membrane wall is a little more delicate and easier to pierce. So you decide if you're like a beginner at separating egg whites, or you've done this a lot. If you've done it a lot, room temperature is fine. If you're kind of new at it, start with cold eggs. And what you want to do is just crack your egg on a sharp edge, something about halfway down, and then just lift off half the shell. And we're going to do what's called the shell to shell method. So you're going to literally pass that yolk from shell to shell. And as you do it, the white will kind of drip off. Okay, see how the white's kind of dripping off? And now I'm going to save this yolk for the next project. We're going to save that for the lemon mousse that we're doing next. So let's do another one. You know what? There's another way to do it too. Now this one takes gotta be a little brave, but Same thing, you're going to break it open, peel back the shell, and instead of passing the yolk from shell to shell, you just take your impeccably clean hand, make sort of a claw shape with it, and just dump the egg right into it. And if you shake, 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 the white will drip through your fingers into the bowl. And you can even pass that yolk from hand to hand instead of shell to shell to really remove that like little wiggly bit and any white that might be there. So that's another way to do it if you feel comfortable. Let's just wipe off the hands there. I did wash my hands right before we started, don't worry. So let's do, we need one more. So which method do you guys like better, the shell to the shell or the through the claw? For chefs, really through your hand is much faster, and sometimes, you know, I'm making like 50 creme brulee, so I need 50 yolks. And to sit there and pass yolks from shell to shell for 50 of them is a little tedious. So we just do it in our hands like what I showed you. So that's the one that comes to handy. So here's the 3 whites that we need just to whip up. You want to make sure your bowl is clean and dry and fat-free. I almost never care about fat-free, but in this case with egg whites, if there's a little bit of fat in there, they won't whip up. They can't grab onto here. And then we need one more. That's going to be at the end to get them to be able to coat with a little bit of nuts.
Hey, Gail.
Yeah.
Grace is wondering if those are eggs from your own chickens.
Because you heard I had chickens, right? They're actually not, only because my chicken's eggs, and I can show them to you later, they're all different sizes. So they're not specifically 1.5 ounces. And when you're writing cooking recipes, eggs are supposed to be large eggs. That's sort of industry standard. And my chickens don't always lay large eggs, unfortunately. So they're not for my chickens. But I can show them to you at the end. Some of them are like really big, and so it would throw the whole recipe off. So I use them more for like scrambled eggs and, you know, fried eggs and things like that where the measurements aren't so exact. And, you know, that's one thing about being a pastry chef. It really is a science. It's really chemistry and physics that we're doing here. So things do need to be exact. All right, I'm going to go ahead and whip up these egg whites to soft peaks. Now, the thing about whipping egg whites, not only do we need this dry, clean, fat-free, but we need to take the protein chain. So what's in egg whites is water and protein. And the protein's in the form of a chain, kind of like a slinky. It's like a really tight spring. And we need air to grab onto that, but it can't grab onto the outside of the spring. It only grabs onto the inside of the spring. So we have to literally flip these protein chains inside out to get air to hook on to whip them up. So there's a couple things you can do to encourage that to happen. You can add a little bit of acid, which could be in the form of lemon juice, vinegar, cream of tartar, a little salt acts the same way. It kind of relaxes protein and breaks down protein. So I'm going to actually add 1 pinch of kosher salt to that just to help the protein relax. You also can warm the eggs, so if they're room temperature, they're more likely to kind of open up. Just like you would if you're warmer, you're a little more likely to open up, right? And you can, you know, whisk them around, move them, just like if you were twirled around in the dance floor, you get a little dizzy and you might be a little more open. So we're going to do that to the egg whites. So basically, I'm whipping them to kind of get them, encourage them to take on air. If within the first 30 seconds of turning your whisk on, your mixer on, you don't see big bubbles, then you may have a problem. You may have some fats in your whites, so maybe your bowl wasn't clean. But let's just check. What was that, like 20 seconds, I think? So if I show you my whites in the bowl, maybe you guys can see, it looks like bubble bath or like dish soap. That's right. That's what you're looking for. So within the first 20 to 30 seconds of turning your mixer on or heating them, you should see sort of big bubbles. Now, as we mix more, those bubbles will get smaller. Okay, so just keep going. And if you find your whisk attachment isn't hitting the bottom of the bowl enough, like mine kind of, you can cheat your bowl a little, but be super careful. Okay? All right, I'm going to keep whipping those. Just make sure all my sugar is combined with the almond flour. And then we're going to fold this into that when we got soft peaks. So we're not at soft peaks yet, but I want to show you what they look like so you know what's not there yet. Okay? So here's where we are now. So you can see the bubbles are much finer than they were before. And if I pull some with my whisk attachment, it falls from the beater, right, falls from the whisk. But if I turn it up and try to get a soft peak, it won't make it. So they're not firm enough yet. But they're definitely getting there. It's very foamy. It's kind of like shaving cream at this point. So we may need like another minute, and then we'll be there to soft peaks. You'll start to see the tines of the whisk attachment kind of leave trails behind itself as you mix. And I've got it on sort of medium high. You don't have to have it on highest speed. And I don't like to because sometimes it'll get away from me then. So I kind of like to have it just at medium high. Let's see, I think we're almost there. There we go. So now, when I lift that up, it doesn't really fall from the whisk. And see how I got that peak, that little point that then kind of like just relaxes a little bit? That soft peaks. So that's what we're looking for. That's perfect. So everything's ready. Now we're going to fold in all the almonds and sugar.
Gale?
And then we'll add the rest.
Gale, I'm sorry. Can I just have you take 1 second and stop, because we're getting some audio stuff here, and I want to see if we can get the stream to normalize, and I don't want to lose you. I apologize. I definitely don't want to lose you. And we also do have a question. Are those just the 3 whites that are in the mixer?
Those are just the 3 whites plus a pinch of salt.
All right, let's go. I do apologize. I know that some people are having some audio issues, but we're going to try and keep going, and we'll see what we can do with it on our end.
Are they okay? Can they hear me okay?
I think we can hear you. It's just a little, it's a little choppy sometimes. So, but I think you should just go ahead and keep going. And we'll see if it evens out, and Stephen and I will continue to try and work on it on our end. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. Sure. So that's the whites with the almond flour and sugar. It's not completely folded in yet. Just want to show it to you like started. Now we're going to add the rest of the ingredients. So I have 3 tablespoons here of apricot jam. I'm just going to add that. If you don't have apricot, you can use peach or just something kind of neutral with not too many chunks in it. And then I'm going to add a few drops of almond extract just for flavor. There we go. So literally like 3 drops. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So that's the batter. Let me get it stirred together. And if you wanted to throw a pedal attachment on your mixer at this point, you could to blend it together, but I'm just going to fold it. So folding is kind of like stirring, but with a spatula. So right now it looks like this. I'm going to fold a little bit longer just to get it like a little bit more. I feel like I should talk because of the audio problems. How bad is it?
It's getting a little bit better, so keep going. Thanks.
Okay. No worries. All right, so now I have pretty much like a nice, combined, nice round hunk of dough. And you can go ahead and use as much as you like and then refrigerate the rest or freeze the rest for later. But let's go ahead and make a few cookies with that. I have a sheet pan here with parchment paper on it. So that's what I find the easiest way to bind something and just make cleanup as easy as possible. And then I've got the 1 egg white here.
Just a point of clarification. Did you put the jam in there? Did we miss that? Or
I did. I put the jam in and I put the almond extract in. It's just like 3 drops of extract, 3 tablespoons of the jam. Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and mix some cookies. So I'm going to roll some cookies, dip it in the egg whites, and then you can either dip it in pine nuts, untoasted, don't toast them because they'll get toasted in the oven, or you can dip them in almonds, and these are like slivered almonds, so they look kind of like potato sticks, if you can picture that. So let's go ahead and make a few balls. So it's a pretty pliable cookie dough. And I'm going to use about that much. Roll it into a ball. Actually, I'm going to take a little bit off. Just roll it into a ball and then kind of roll it between your hands to make it a little elongated. And I'm going to dip it in egg white and dip it in the pine nuts just to coat the top surface of it, okay? And then go ahead and place it on the cookie sheet. So pine nuts are kind of expensive, so feel free to use the almonds if you want to use the almonds instead. But you're rolling a ball, you're rolling it into a little bit of an oval, dip in egg white, dip in pine nut. So let's do like one row of pine nut and one row of almond, and then I'll get those in the oven. Because I think you get the idea, right? Roll it into a ball, make it a little bit of an oval shape, like an egg shape. Dip, dip. There we go. All right, let's do a couple almond ones. So a little bit of dough. Roll it into a ball, make it a little bit oval, dip in the white, dip in the almonds. And if you don't get enough on top, go ahead and stick a few on there. And if you find the dough's a little sticky for your taste, you can go ahead and chill it and it'll kind of firm up a little bit and not be quite as sticky, okay? All right, I'm gonna do 3 and 3. So 3 almond and 3 pine nut for now. You would fill up the whole sheet pan, but you don't need to watch me do, 12 of them. There we go.
Gale, what's your what was the oven set at again?
It's set at 325, so a little low. Usually 350 would be what you'd use for cookies and most things, cakes, but this is 325, so just slightly lower. And if you've got any almonds that kind of fell, go ahead and you can stick them back on.
And did you?
All right, so this is what they look
Did you
like.
wash the pine nuts before you did this? Someone, Allison's saying she thought that someone advised you to do that.
Wash the pine nuts? Nope. No, I did talk about you don't need to toast them. Sometimes when you're using pine nuts, like in pesto or on top of pasta, you would toast them first. But no, you don't need to wash them. Any other questions before sticking in the oven?
No, I think we're good to go. Although someone does want to hear about Aretha Franklin's peach cobbler, so.
Okay. All right, so these are going in. We want to bake them for 25 minutes. I'm going to set timer for 15 right now. And that way we can check them in case they get away from us. Sometimes my oven's not accurate, so I like to check it sort of halfway through the baking. Just make sure we haven't gone off track and gone off the rails. Any other questions about that recipe?
25 minutes total? Is that how long? And check at 15?
25 to we're looking at. Yeah, we're going to check at 15. We'll see, how they're doing. Make sure they don't get away from us. Okay, next thing we want to do for the mousse, we're going to start the lemon mousse. The ingredients we need are those 4 yolks we just made. We need a half cup of sugar, some lemon rind and juice, a little bit of salt. We're going to need some heavy cream. Let me get that out of the fridge. And later, for the topping, for the strawberry mash, we'll need some strawberries and some sugar. But we'll get to that. So this is basically all you need for the mousse. 5 ingredients, not much. So the first thing we want to do is whip up the cream ahead of time and get it in the fridge, just so it's ready and waiting for us when it's time to fold it in. We're going to measure out 1 cup of cream. And when you're measuring liquids, you want to use a liquid measuring cup, which means it's glass. And usually it has to pour out, and usually has lines on it. And you actually want to get down at eye level when you're measuring to make sure that it's accurate. The difference between a liquid measuring cup and a dry, where's my dry one? Let me show it to you. The dry measuring cup is this metal one that you can, dip sugar and level across, or dip flour and level across. Liquids are not flat across. You can't level them. They do what's called meniscus, which means they're flat and then they go up at the sides if they hit a surface. It's all chemistry and physics, I swear to God. So that's why you want to use a liquid measuring cup when you're measuring liquid, because the lines on the cup actually compensate for the fact that the liquid meniscus are up at the edge.
And Gail, we have a question about raw sugar. Do you advise against that, or raw sugar?
No, why would I? Raw sugar? Like sugar in the raw?
Sugar in the raw? Is that what you mean?
Sugar in the raw is not. Yeah, it's got more flavor. It is a coarser grain, so if you're doing something where sugar needs to dissolve, it takes longer to dissolve. But the flavor is really nice. It's got some of the natural molasses still in it, so no, it's fine. So we're going to whip this cream up just till it's stiff. Now, when you're buying whipping cream, you might see a couple different names. This one says, yes, it's heavy whipping cream. So you might see that. You might just see whipping cream. You might just see heavy cream. They're all pretty much the same. If you get whipping cream, it's like 0.5% butterfat less, but still will whip up. So don't worry if you're at the store and it says heavy cream versus heavy whipping cream. It's still the same. It's still what you need. Okay? And I'm just whisking this in a whip with a whisk attachment. You don't need to chill the bowl. You don't need to chill the whisk. A lot of people ask, like, do I have to chill my bowl? Who has room to chill their bowl? I don't. But no, it doesn't really make enough of a difference to bother doing that. I'm just going to whip this cream till it's stiff, and then we'll stick it in the fridge to hold on to it till we use it. I'm just going to transfer it into a small bowl. And then we'll use the same bowl to whip up our yolks. Okay. In the meantime, let's just get some hot water going. Here, with like an inch of water in it, and it's just steaming hot. We're going to cook the mixture down. Oh, it's ready. Hope you guys can keep an eye on it for me. So now we have stiff whipped cream, right? You can see that. You know how you can tell it's ready? You put it over your head, and if it doesn't fall out, it's ready. Right. All right, so I'm just going to transfer this to a bowl. There we go. And then we'll chill this. Just keep it in the fridge till we're ready to use it to fold it. Now let's get the rest of the mousse ingredients going. So we're going to whip here this. We're going to whip those 4 yolks that we separated earlier with half a cup of sugar. Sorry about that. Half a cup of sugar going in. And let's just whip that up till it's what's called a lemon yellow or a ribbon stage. So you're going to be whipping in some air, which is why it gets light yellow colored. While that's whipping, let's get the lemon part ready. So I've got a lemon here. I washed it. But one thing, I know it seems obvious, but I can't tell you how many times I've forgotten. Make sure you take the label off, okay? Take that label off. So when you need rind and juice, you want to make sure you grate your rind first, because it's really hard to grate the rind if you cut it in half and juice it. And I've got a little cutting board here that I want to cut on, but see how slippery it is and kind of unsafe. So I just take a little damp paper towel, put it underneath my cutting board, and now suddenly it's nice and safe, and it's not going to move around that much. So let's go ahead and take off the rind. This is called a microplane. I'm assuming you guys have, and most of you have one of these. It's like a grater, but much easier to use. And what you do is just kind of wipe the fruit over the surface of the microplane, and the rind comes right out the backside. And you want a tablespoon of rind. So I'm going to do the whole lemon, I think. about 3 tablespoons. It's a pretty big amount.
So Gail, I got a couple of questions.
Okay.
Ready? Did
Ready.
you boil the water? I don't know what that means.
It's coming to a simmer. So it's not at 212 degrees, which would be boiling. It's at like 180, 190. So what you're looking for is a little bit of steam coming off, like you see steam coming off the water. That's like 180. So that's fine, or a little over, but you don't need like hard rolling boil.
Okay. How do you store the cookies? Can you freeze the dough or the baked cookies, either one?
Yes, both. You can freeze the dough or you can freeze the cookies already baked. They freeze great. So lemon rind just went in. Because it is a big batch of dough. You can also cut the recipe in half, but 1.5 egg whites is kind of hard to. All right, so we're going to juice this now. I'm going to cut the ends off just because there's no juice there, right? It's all pith. And it's a little stiff, so it makes it harder to juice. And the way I like to juice a lemon is with one of these guys. You guys all have one of these for making fabulous cocktails. So the thing about these juicers is it seems like you would put the lemon this way because that's how it fits, but that's not the way you do it. See how it's got holes in the bottom? So you want to put it cut face down, okay, so the juice can come out. So let's go ahead and close it into here.
And while you're doing that, question on the water. How much water?
About about an inch of water. So not much. It was hard to show that was a little in there when I tilted it, guys. But it's just like an inch of water. Not much. Ooh. All right, we're hoping for 3 tablespoons of juice. If I don't have 3 there, we'll squeeze the other half. But let's measure out 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we had enough. So we'll mix that in. And then we're also going to add some salt. So just a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which you're going to measure exactly. And you can just like measure it on your hand. Throw that in. And that's it. That's all that's going to go in the bowl here. So we've got just a mixture of the yolk, sugar, a little bit of salt, lemon juice, and lemon rind. Now we're going to cook this over the hot water, okay? So I'm just going to put this right over that pot. I'm going to put a whisk in it, so every so often I can go over and give it a little whisk. But I don't know if I can show you. Can you see my water's got like steam coming off of it? That's what you want. And I'm just going to set the bowl right on there. Can you guys see that? I've just set the bowl right on my pot. If you don't have, if your bowl is too small and is going to fall into the pot, you can transfer it to a different bowl, that's all. Okay. So I'm just going to cook this over the hot water. And while we do that, let's make an ice bath, because once it cooks and gets thick, we want to cool it down, and then we want to fold in the whipped cream. If we fold it into hot, that hot mixture, it's going to melt the whipped cream. So let me just get some ice in a bowl. I've got a pretty big bowl here for my ice bath, and I'm going to put some water in with the ice. That's ready to go, okay? And every so often you want to go over and just like check. Just gotta break this ice because it's all frozen together. It was in my freezer. Let's go check and see if it's thickened a little bit. It's already started thickening a little bit. So give it a quick stir. There we go. While we're waiting for that to thicken, can I show you guys my James Beard Awards? I brought them. So a James Beard Award is kind of like an Oscar, in my industry. You're voted on by your peers and by journalists for James Beard Award. And I have 2 of them. So I brought them with so you guys could see them tonight. Here, I'm closer. That's what they look like. So this one's for Outstanding Pastry Chef, and that one's for Best Service for my restaurant, True, which was my fancy pants fine dining restaurant that I had in Chicago for 18 years. So that's what they look like. What they're really handy for is if I'm ever negotiating like my fee for a consulting job, I bring them with and sort of show up and go, gee, where can I put my James Beard Awards down while we negotiate my price? The other
That's
thing
right. We paid you a great deal for those, didn't we, Gale?
I paid a lot for them. The other thing that they're handy for is if my husband questions anything I cook, he'll be like, really? Lemon with strawberries? And I'll say, gee, honey, I can't remember where your James Beard Awards are, but mine are hanging right here. Or if you like questions like, really, that glass with that wine? I pull out the Best Service one. So they kind of come in handy for keeping people from asking too many questions. Right?
Gale, I know you're getting big congratulations from everyone on those James Beard Awards. Those are fantastic.
Yes, they're quite an honor. When I first got them, the James Beard Awards were in New York City. They're in Chicago now, except this year because of Corona, they were canceled. But usually they're in New York, and all the big New York chefs are there. And because I was on Food Network for 10 years with my show Sweet Dreams, I'm friends with a lot of the Food Network people. So I remember I gave my acceptance speech, and I was like crying and everything, and my mascara is running. So I ran to the bathroom after I gave my speech to fix my makeup because I'm a chef. I never wear makeup, so wasn't used to it. And out in the lobby was Bobby Flay, who's a friend of mine, and Bobby stopped me and he's like, Gale, do you understand what this means? And I'm like, no, what? He's like, you can double your day rate. So for a lot of chefs, they like having him because it gives you a certain panache or clout that, nothing else gives you really.
So we got a couple questions about the eggs while you're back there. How long do the eggs mix? And do we put the eggs in the cream?
So the egg yolks, we mixed with the sugar for like a minute, was that? Maybe 2 minutes at the most, so not very long, just enough to get some air fluffed into them. And then the cream is not in there yet. The cream's in the fridge, and we're going to fold that in at the very end to lighten up the whole thing once it's cooled. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
So we're not quite as thick as I want to be, but I just want to show it to you what it looks like. It's still, light yellow and kind of thick, but I'm going to give it like 1 or 2 more minutes over the water here. In the meantime, I think I need to check my oven to check the cookies. I heard my timer said that it was up. There's the timer. Hold on. So let's see how those are doing. So that was the first 15 minutes. Nice. So I'm going to give it 10 more, and then I think they're done. So that'll be a 25-minute, but it could be as much as 30. It depends on your oven. I ironically have like a really uneven oven. If I do, I'm sure you guys do too. So let's go ahead and check those yolks and see if they're done.
What are you looking for with the cookies being done? Brownness or?
Kind of a light golden brown. They're starting to poof up in the oven right now, so you'll see them kind of like expand. That's the water in the egg whites. When water gets hot, it turns to steam and it needs to escape, and it poofs things up. So that's why souffle poofs up when it cooks, and that's why some cookies, kind of poof up. So right now they're kind of expanding a little bit and getting a little bit golden brown, but we want a little more color on them, and we want to make sure the heat gets to the center so that they're cooked all the way through. So here's the lemon. I know it's hard to see probably, but it's kind of gloppy. Like before, it would have fallen pretty rapidly from my whisk, but now it's kind of like plop, plop, plop. And now as we chill this in the ice bath, it's going to get even thicker. So I'm going to go ahead and place it in there. I'm going to throw a little more water over it though, because my ice isn't really touching the bowl the way I want it to. So let's go ahead and get a little more water in there. So you really want that super cold water to come into contact with the hot metal bowl and cool it down. If you wanted to cool it even faster, we could transfer it from this metal bowl to something else. And I'm just going to take a spatula and kind of scrape it off the sides of the bowl, because that metal bowl that's sitting in the ice is cold right away. So it's starting to already thicken the lemon. You guys see that? It's a little thicker than it was when I first took it off the heat. So I'm just stirring it around just to cool it off from that ice. The French word for an ice bath is a bain-marie, in case you ever saw that in a cookbook somewhere. There we go. I don't know, have any of you seen, probably the funniest television I've done is when I was on with Julia Child. So Julia wrote a book called Baking with Julia, and it turns out Julia doesn't actually bake. So she contacted 27 different pastry chefs from across the country and had us write her book for her. And we each had a different chapter or ingredient. Mine was actually the phyllo chapter. And if you got your recipes in on time, you actually got to go to her house in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and film with her and film the PBS series with her. So that's what I did after I wrote my recipes. I went to Julia's house and got a chance to work with her in person. She was 84 at the time, so older, later in her life. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm like 5 feet tall. I'm pretty short. And Julia's like 6 feet tall. So there was quite a height difference, but luckily she had a little scoliosis at 84, so she was a little hunched over. So she was like maybe 5'10". But it's a very darling couple shows that we did together. And you can find it if you go to the PBS website and just Google Julia Child, Gale Gand. You'll see a very blonde, very young Gale Gand with Julia Child. It's, before I had my show on Food Network, so it's before Food Network got a hold of my eyebrows. So I had like these bushy, Hemingway eyebrows. It's before I'm media trained. So I'm kind of soft-spoken and like demure, a little bit shy almost, if you can believe that. But it is darling, and you can go see it and see Julia and I working together. And it really, impacted my career in a way that nothing else did. All right, this is looking.
Gale, I'm sorry, I want to interject here because I do want to send you a hello from Bernadette Pruitt, who says you catered her wedding.
Yes.
Wait,
I'm trying to think. What year was that? Was it it was right
91.
before I went to New York? Was it? Okay, 91. Oh my God.
Yeah, she says the guests still comment on how wonderful the luncheon and the wedding cake was that you made.
And this is an awkward question, but the important question is, are you still married?
She'll get back to us on that. And I also want to let you know that you're getting a little bit of an assist in the chat from Grace McQueen, who's the RIT pastry sous chef. And I know she's been jumping in and making some suggestions when people are asking questions in the chat.
She's helping me with my Q&A. Thank you so much. Last time I was at RIT, I got to give a talk to the hospitality students, as well as I think I did a demo maybe at night. I'm trying to remember. She might know. But I really enjoyed coming and meeting all the students there. And, I was at the School for American Craftsmen. I wasn't in the hospitality school, but it was fun to go back and work with those kids. I hope to do it again. Is there really going to be classes in the fall?
So that's what they're saying.
Yeah, they're really going to have kids back. Okay.
They will have kids back, some hybrid, some online, some in class. And they're working through the labs right now, trying to make sure that they can keep people distanced, but at the same time working. So
that's great news. That's really great news. And while I was there at RIT, I took some classes at NTID as well. Is that still an option for students?
Yep.
So I took ballet, I remember, at NTID. So I don't sign very well, but I can sign in all the French ballet terms. So it's kind of a funny thing to do. And one of my daughters, I have twin girls who are 15, and one of my daughters studies ASL, studies American Sign Language, just after school on her own because she's interested in it. So you don't know, she might end up at RIT being one of your signers there. I so enjoy giving talks there because I always have a signer with me. And, I'll say something like like badass, and I'll look over to see like, how do you sign that? And it's always really fun to see how you sign it. All right, so this lemon is all cool now. It's room temperature or even a little bit cold. So we can go ahead and add the whipped cream to it. I'm just going to check that the whipped cream didn't deflate or, become liquidy, but it didn't. Sometimes it kind of will get a little liquid in the bottom, and you can just re-whip it then. But I'm going to go ahead and add it to the lemon.
And Michael's asking, why do we heat the egg mix and then cool it on ice instead of just whipping it and cooling it?
So you heat the egg mixture because you want to not only cook it to, cook out any bacteria that might be in the yolks, but also to thicken it. So if you cook the protein in egg yolks to 180 degrees, it thickens. So it's to build that structure as well. And then we cool it off, because if it was hot when we folded in the whipped cream, it would melt the whipped cream. So we're always trying to like retain textures. So now I'm just going to fold with a spatula the whipped cream into the lemon curd that we made. There we go. And it's kind of streaky still, so I've still got some more folding to do, but I can see that beautiful lemon curd just kind of folded into the whipped cream and becoming super light and lovely. So the last thing we need to do is we need to make the strawberry mash, which is very easy. Every year I go strawberry picking in Wisconsin. I live in the Midwest, so our strawberry season is early June. And I usually take my kids, child labor, have them pick the berries. And then I bring them home and I make jam all day for the next 3 days, actually. I call it my jam session because my family are all musicians. And actually, as you mentioned, I play the ukulele as well. I've been a musician my whole life. So my jam session, though, is using strawberries and mashing them up with a little bit of sugar. And it makes a great fresh topping for anything, for ice cream or whatever. So I've just got a few strawberries here, probably a cup's worth. And I'm going to just cut the tops off of them and maybe cut them in half. They've been rinsed, but just cut the green bit off and then kind of cut them up into a bowl. There we go. And I'm going to add a tablespoon of sugar to that. And the sugar is hygroscopic. So that means that sugar actually draws moisture out of things. So when it comes into contact with the juice in the strawberries, it's going to kind of pull out some of that juice and help it make its own syrup. But we're also going to mash it just with a potato masher to sort of break it up a little bit. Make it like a chunky sauce, sort of. All right. That characteristic, that sugar being hygroscopic, if you're wondering what that looks like, so think of a lemon meringue pie in the grocery store. Often they have like little droplets or beads of moisture on the top of the meringue. That's the sugar in the meringue, just picking up free moisture from the air, humidity from the air. It's not even out of the pie necessarily. So that's sort of the visual indication that sugar is always sort of looking for free moisture and gathering it together. So now I'm just going to add that 1 tablespoon of sugar. And I'm going to mash it with a potato masher, but I hear the timer. So let's go check the cookies, see if they're ready. So cute. Look at these. Look how they came out. So the nuts get nice and, lightly toasted, kind of golden brown too. Just going to let them cool on the stove while we finish up the mousse. I'm going to mash the strawberries. So you're just really smashing them with a potato masher. If you don't have a potato masher, you can just use the back of a fork. All right. But it makes a really nice, fresh, sort of chunky strawberry compote that's so fast and easy. And if you make this, you can use it the same day you make it, but you could make it in the morning and then use it that afternoon. There's our strawberry mash, ready to go. And let's see, what do we want to put the mousse in? So really, you could put it in anything. You could put it in a ramekin or a dessert cup, just a dessert cup. Or if you want to go kind of fancy, do it in some stemware. So I'm going to go ahead and pipe it in there. You could just, with a spoon. This is a fork though. Where's the spoon? With a spoon, just like spoon it in. But for me, as a pastry chef, what's easiest is to just throw it into a pastry bag with a plain tip. So that's a plain tip, just a plain big white tip. This is a disposable pastry bag, though I rarely dispose of them unless I get a hold of them. But they're nice because they're plastic. It's easy to clean. It's easy to see it's clean. It's easy to see if there's a air pocket. And I know you might be a little afraid of pastry bags, but you've been using one your whole life, and it's a toothpaste tube. That's exactly what a toothpaste tube is. It's just a tube to get something gooey from one place to another. What I like to do is fold the top down just to keep it clean, and then make like a C shape with my hand and slip it under there so I can hold it. Then you're going to take the tip and just throw it in there. Make sure someone's watching you because you look super cool when you toss it in there. And if you're afraid that the goo is going to come out the bottom because of gravity, just give a twist and let's shove it in there. I just shoved it in the tip, so now the tip is clogged up. So I can go ahead and put stuff in the bag and not worry about it coming out. So I'm just going to load this mousse and put as much as you want in there that you're comfortable with. I can probably put it all in there, but if you have a smaller bag and you can't fit it all, or if you don't have a bag at all, you can use a Ziploc bag and just cut the corner off. That works great. But just put as much in there as you're comfortable loading it up with. And then you're going to go ahead and undo that lip that we made. Let's see how it's all nice and clean there. Gather it up. Turn it towards the ceiling. And now release that little twist. You don't want to have it face down when you do that because it'll go everywhere. Because gravity always wins, right? All right, so let's just put some in this little stemware. So see, it's a little easier, and you can keep the wall of the glass really clean if you're using a pastry bag, but you don't have to. You could totally spoon that in if you wanted, okay? But fill up whatever containers you like. You could do like little small demi-tasse would be super cute too. All right, let's spoon a little bit of that strawberry mash on top. So just like that. Beautiful. And I've got a little plate here that I want to put the cookies on. Let's see. So this would be a great combination, right? The lemon mousse with these pine nut and almond cookies.
So, Gale, question on the mousse. TJ says he thinks he may have gotten his a little too liquidy. Is there something you can do to thicken it up? Or
has he already folded his cream in?
Have you folded your cream in, TJ? We're waiting to hear. He says yes.
Okay. Then I think all you can really do is once he gets it into the glass, put it in the fridge, and it may firm up a little bit more once it's in the fridge. It sounds like either he didn't cook his yolks enough, or he didn't whip his cream enough, or the yolks weren't cool enough when he folded the cream in. Those are the three places where he could have lost volume, or he overfolded.
Okay.
So I'll try tomorrow again. I bet you'll get it right tomorrow, now that you kind of see how it operates, how it acts.
But it should really be pretty thick.
It's pretty thick. It's pretty firm. It's like once he cooks it and cools it in the ice, it's like peanut butter almost. Not quite as thick as peanut butter, but almost.
Okay.
But it'll still be delicious. What questions do we have?
Okay, one question. Chad says he's a brasserie tea alum. He's got a question going back to the to the almond cookies. Do you sift the almond flour?
I do not. You really don't need to. If it was in my French kitchen, if I was at Carlos in what year was that? I'm trying to think when I came here, 87, I would be putting it through a tammy to remove any large chunks. But almond flour now, it's 30 years later, and almond flour is pretty consistent and pretty fine. And there's really almost no need to sift it or put it through a tammy. But good question.
All right. And you'll be glad to know that Bernadette is still married. They're celebrating their 29th anniversary next month.
Do I get to make a cake for the 30th? Find me on your 30th. I'll make you a cake since you stayed married.
All right.
Any other questions?
If we do have any other questions, folks, just go ahead and type them into the chat. But we're getting lots of thank yous, and it looks yummy.
Oh, good. You know, I have been doing quarantine cooking classes during quarantine. They've changed from sometimes it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, sometimes Tuesday, Thursday. Right now, I'm usually just doing them on Thursdays, though not this week. But if you guys do want to take another free class with me, just check my Facebook page, Chef Gale Gand, and there'll be events, announced on there and when the next one is. I think it's going to be next Thursday. It's usually 10 o'clock Central, and we do a dessert recipe together. It takes about an hour for class. But also I do classes online virtually through Eloa Farm. You can find those on my website or Eloa Farm's website. They're an organic historic farm here in Chicago, outside of Chicago in Lake Forest. But I usually do 1 or 2 classes a month with them. And I actually have a stone fruit class coming up on Tuesday, August 4th. So a week from tonight. If you want to take another class with me, you can go to my Facebook page or my website or their website and sign up for my stone fruit class. They're at 5:30 Central till 7. And I think we're going to do like 4 dishes. We're doing a white peach bellini. We're going to be doing a plum and blue cheese salad. I'm doing a crostata with peaches and cherries, so all stone fruit, and apricot rice pudding. So if you guys want to cook with me again next week on August 4th at 5:30 through Eloa Farm, that one you do have to pay for. I think it's $40. But we'll have a great time. We'll have tons of fun. We're going to make a cocktail first. So maybe I'll see you there. I'll see you in class.
That sounds fun. So we do have one more question. Someone's telling me that you used to be at the Strath Allen here in Rochester?
Yeah, I worked the Strath for like 3 years. I was there from 82 to 85, I believe. And there's even a Strath Allen reunion Facebook page that I'm a part of. I worked for Chef Greg Broman, who's still there in Rochester, New York. When I talk about my chef, that's who my chef is Greg Broman. I think there's like it's like a winery that got turned into a party facility. If you know the name of it, that's his place. Him and his wife. And I can't think of the name of it. It's like Casa Larga. It's hard to roll off the tongue now because of Trump's golf place. But yes, that's Greg Broman. And so I studied with him for 3 years. And then he sent us off to New York City, me and Rick Tremonto, who I married at the time. And I'm no longer married to, but he's a chef as well in the Chicago area. So we worked for Greg Broman, and then I went to New York City, then moved to Chicago where my parents, this is where I'm from. So I moved back home in the late 80s to start cooking here. Did get a chance to cook in England for 3 years in the 90s, and then came back and started doing my own restaurants.
That's great. Now, here's a really important question. Do you prefer deep dish or thin crust pizza?
As a Chicagoan, it's like, I have twin girls, and it's sort of like asking, like, which of your daughters do you like the best? Which I can't admit which one it is. There is a favorite, but I'm not allowed to say. Honestly, right now, thin crust. I have had a lifetime of stuffed pizza. And you can only eat like one slice because it's just too filling. So I've actually kind of had my fill of deep dish. So I'm a thin crust girl. Sorry.
You can't fold deep dish in half, right? You know how you have to fold it in half?
Well, New York, if it's New York style slices, that you fold in half, and the grease has to drip down. Yeah,
exactly.
There's one other thing with New York style. There's one more very special way to eat it, which is you rip off the crust, put it down the middle, then fold. I learned that I judged the James Beard Awards media awards, and I was watching a television show that was like, secrets of the industry, and that's actually a secret, like sort of proper way to eat New York style pizzas. You rip off the crust and put it down the center, and then fold in half.
Ah, interesting. And last question, Bernadette says, were you at Edwards as well here in Rochester?
So I've got to remember, was Edwards the one? So I worked at a restaurant for like 2 weeks, and it might have been Edwards, and then it closed.
I think Edwards is downtown, or was downtown. I don't think it's here any longer.
Right. I'm trying to remember. No, the restaurant I worked at was called Hugo's. I worked at Hugo's for 2 weeks. And then the story was the mob came in and bought it for cash and shut it down. And we lost jobs. And then I went to the University Club and worked there as the pastry chef. So no, I don't think I ever worked at Edwards, but I really tried to get a job. What was the La Belle Gourmande? Do you remember her? She had like a bakery and catering place, and it was this delightful little, I think it was like off Park Avenue. I tried to get a job there and she wouldn't hire me, but I stopped there all the time. I don't think I worked at Edwards, though. I think I used to just go there a lot.
Okay. All right. Well, that is all the time that we have. Thank you, Gale, so much for sharing this delicious dessert with us. We really appreciate you taking the time. If anyone does have additional questions, you can email them to ritalum@rit.edu, and we'll direct your questions to Gale. All audience members will receive an email from us in about a week with a link to the webinar recording. We will also include those ingredients and the recipe instructions so that you will be able to replicate tonight's dessert. Oh, Karen says it's creme de la creme. Was that it?
La Belle Gourmande? No.
No, you definitely La Belle Gourmande.
Yeah, it was. Her name was Nancy. I can't remember her last name.
So thank you all for joining us tonight. Oh, Spencer just tried the cookies. He says they're great. That's super.
I just tried the mousse. It was really good.
All right. Well, we're all going to let everyone go eat. And thank you so much again. Everyone, please exit the webinar by just closing your browser window. And do let us know what you thought through a brief survey that you're going to receive via email. Thanks, Gale. And thanks, everyone. Please have a wonderful evening and stay safe.
Great to see everybody. See you in the kitchen again, I hope. Bye.
Thank you.